Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp, awards columnist for the Los Angeles Times. Joining me, Steve Zeitchik, film writer for the Times. Today, of course, Oscar nominations. Steve, let's start with just the most shocking omission. What was the big surprise for you?
Well, I think for me, for you, and for everyone watching this morning, it was Ridley Scott, director of The Martian. Never won an Academy Award, was thought to be a front-runner to win this year, not even nominated. Names were read out, a couple of the standard names we expected, people like Tom McCarthy from Spotlight, George Miller from Mad Max. They get to the end of the list, and instead of saying Ridley's name, they say Lenny Abramson, director of Room. I mean, I don't know what you make of this. I think there's an element of people just thought, well, someone in the director's branch, of course, these are the people voting for director, were thinking, well, someone else will nominate Ridley or put him on their list, so I could put someone else on mine. There might have also been an element of a bit of a backlash. This is a big, Hollywood blockbuster. It's made more money than any other movie in the field by a good margin. Maybe there was a bit of, all right, let's get an indie director like Lenny Abramson in the mix. Why do you think this happened?
I have no idea. I mean, I've talked to people today that said, you're talking about a branch that's 400 people or less and 380, whatever. So, there's room for odd choices. I had two people tell me today that over the years, Ridley Scott has rubbed people the wrong way. He's very direct.
Yes.
Ornery is a word that I heard. You've interviewed him. I have. He can be a classy guy too. If you discounted every director who's ornery and
you never get to five
jackass,
in any given
then
year.
you never get to five. Exactly. Yeah. How does anyone get nominated? Right. So it's really hard to explain. Maybe The Martian itself, which earned 7 nominations, so obviously enough branches liked it. It's really hard to say, and really kind of odd that Lenny Abramson from Room was nominated over him. I expected Todd Haynes maybe from Carol if they were going from an indie route.
It's funny. I think it'd be great to talk about Room in a second too. But even before we get to that, I'm curious. Just last thing on the Ridley question. There's now, going forward, there's the matter of what happens from here. And Ridley has never won an Oscar. I talked to Simon Kinberg, who's one of the producers on The Martian. He kind of put forth this narrative, which I think we're going to start to hear in the coming weeks, the Argo narrative, if you will. If you remember 3 years ago, Ben Affleck gets snubbed for director, goes on to ride that kind of victimization to a Best Picture win. Kinberg was kind of putting in my ear, and I think this is going to start to get out there that, hey, all right, you didn't nominate Ridley for director. You can right the wrong, still give The Martian Best Picture, and Ridley would be then earning his first Oscar. As a producer, yeah. As a producer. Is there a possibility that it plays out that way?
That's an interesting idea, but the big difference is that Ben Affleck, after the snub, was out there working it.
Yes.
He was politicking, mixing it up. Ridley Scott's not going to do that. He doesn't care. He might care deep down, but he's not going to be glad-handing on the awards circuit for the next month.
Probably not. Probably not. And I think Affleck is kind of the sort of...
Maybe Matt Damon can do that for him.
Matt Damon can do that for himself, and I think has an uphill climb relative to Leo DiCaprio, who, of course, was nominated opposite him. As we're talking about Abramson getting in, the second R in all this after Ridley is Room, and I was just working on a piece about this, the whole idea of Room not only getting in for director, getting in for screenplay, adapted screenplay rather, Emma Donoghue adapting her own novel, over Aaron Sorkin for Steve Jobs, who a lot of people thought was a lock as a perennial Oscar contender, just won the Golden Globe, gets in there. Brie Larson, of course, also a front runner already for Best Actress in Room, gets in, and the movie gets Best Picture, knocking out Todd Haynes' Carol. What do you make of Room, just a small, difficult movie that's made $5 million, that's hard to watch, steamrolling through all these major categories?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to Toronto, where it won the Audience Award. And, a good indication there that the people who do see it really connect with it and love it. It's won a number of festival audience awards, in fact. So maybe the numbers, I've heard, as you have probably too, that there was some resistance among some people to see this very intense movie. But the people who do see it really connect and love it. And I think probably enough put it high on their ballots for it to be nominated.
Speaking of movies, it's funny, Room is a movie that not a lot of people saw. and still got all this momentum. There's one movie that a lot of people saw that really came up empty, with one exception, and that's Straight Outta Compton. That's a movie that's the opposite of Room. Big popcorn movie, crowd pleaser, of course, rap biopic that came out in August about NWA and the roots thereof. Movie a lot of people thought would get a Best Picture nomination. It doesn't. It gets one nomination, I believe, for original screenplay. Yeah. And I think the fact that it ends up where it does, which is to say, not really in any great place at all, speaks to a larger question about race. What do you make of Compton and why it didn't get picture, and what it means that, yet again, we don't have Compton in picture, and we also don't have any faces of color among the 20 acting nominations?
Yeah, when they announced the screenplay nominations and Compton found its way in, I thought, I think it's going to get a Best Picture nomination. And then the 8, it turns out this year, were announced, the 8 titles, and there wasn't a 9th, there wasn't a Compton, and there weren't any people of color among the 20 acting nominees for the second year running. And it's really, to me, remarkable that, you know, last year, it's such an outcry, Oscars So White hashtag, that this year more Academy members wouldn't be filling out their ballots with that kind of in the back of their minds, because there were a number of worthy candidates on the acting side this year. Michael B. Jordan from Creed, Will Smith, Idris Elba from Beasts of No Nation. A number of ways they could have gone, and they went none of those ways.
That's what's striking to me. I mean, last year, look, Selma, which was the movie that was snubbed and spurred really this whole Oscars So White hashtag, which we're seeing again this year. Selma was designed to win awards. It obviously is a historical drama that usually does win awards. And it got nominated for Best Picture, didn't get director or actor, which I think was an outrage. But it was one movie, and I think, you know, you could sort of justify it by saying, well, maybe Paramount didn't campaign hard enough for it, or maybe just
the DVDs
didn't go out in time. Ava DuVernay, who was the director, maybe she campaigned in a way that maybe some people, you know, you could kind of come up with all these reasons as to why it didn't work, and it still got a picture. This year, when you look at, you know, movies you mentioned, you know, Creed, you know, Beasts of No Nation, you know, a difficult film, a film from Netflix that didn't get a big theatrical release, but acclaimed performances. Creed, a beloved movie from a beloved franchise, also with great performances. Sly Stallone gets nominated, but none of the black actors in it get nominated. And then Compton doesn't get picture. It starts to feel like a little bit more of a pattern, not just an outlier. And that's I think, what's so disturbing.
Yeah, it's troubling, and it's definitely an issue that will be talked about a lot in the coming weeks and the coming months heading into next year's Oscars. And we have much to talk about, and you all can follow it on latimes.com. Thank you for watching this, and